Hi, here are 100 links of the track for the TKS Tankette Project. I have 8 road wheels holding it up right now. Of course, there's only 4 road wheels on each side of the TKS Tankette, but this is a nice way to show 100 links of track moving along and nice and fluidly. So that's without the drive sprocket or the idler. Those have not been made yet. And for the time being, the TKS hull is over here, upside down. Here's where the 4 road wheels will go, 2 here and 2 here on leaf springs that attach to this sliding and pivot block. And that's where the state of the project is right now. Here are some pieces of track that are kind of in the waiting. They're partially done pieces. I got 10 links here, stack of 2, got 5 of those, except for the one that's missing right there. So that's 100 pieces of track waiting to be completed. They're definitely not complete at this point. For example, just because of the jig that I've made to create these things, I don't weld into the corners as much as I'd like to. So I have a second pass of welding after they're out of the jig. That's what these would be waiting for next. The piece that's missing from here is over in the shop going through that process. And then here's a spare piece of track. I have about 7 links here that will be spares or samples or demos or something like that. So over here I had just gotten done with finishing up some of the welds so that they go into the corners a little bit better. I can't tell you really if structurally that's important or not, but it seemed nice. At least it's a corner where less dust will, dirt and grime will collect and get in there. Maybe it helps with some aspects of strength. I couldn't tell you that. So here's a link right here that's pretty much almost cooled off from the welding process. I did them in a batch of 10 here, but this one's still warm. The next thing I'm going to do is fit each link to its neighbor and put a hinge pin through it and make sure that it pivots very nicely. Some of these little weld pieces here are now in the way of smooth motion, and maybe the heating and so forth of the weld causes a little movement. So the next thing is to make sure that they move fairly well, and the step after that is to take guide teeth and weld them on. These are just pieces of square tube that have been cut at an angle like that to make these guide teeth. While we're talking about that, over here in the jig area, we have the piece that I put in the bandsaw to hold the square tube at the right angle for making that cut that you just saw. There's some other jigs sitting over here. Once I'm kind of done with them, I like to paint them just to keep them from rusting. Here was the hinge pin wire bender that I'll show you what that did. And then here's the most important things I have for setting the pitch, the spacing between the hinge pins of tracks as I build them. So that I want to be the same for everyone. And then I got some piece of track here that I use as kind of a guide for building up subsequent track pieces, and hopefully I won't be using that again. And then that one tool that was for bending the wires that I showed earlier, I just took pieces of straight wire, put them in that jig, turned it, it made these little things which go into the they'll end up going here into the hinge pin, being bent on the other side. That'll be on both sides of the pin so that it generally stays in place while it's in operation. there is one more step involved in the construction of these tracks. Some of my earlier model links here just had a tube that would be riding on the ground. Maybe that'd work okay in, certain kinds of dirt or grass, but I thought that would probably wear out quicker than I'd like. So I've added these cleats on top of that tube, at least the middle part, not the little end tubes here. It's a piece of ultra-high molecular weight UHMW plastic. It's held in place here by 3 screws that are tapped into a 1/4-inch thick steel bar that goes right under it in order to give the screws something to bite into before they would go through the tube and touch onto the hinge pin. And just happened to be working on some of those cleat bars today. Here's the stock. It's, what is this, 1/2 inch wide by 1/4 inch thick. They were originally 10 feet long pieces. Normally it'd probably be 20, but I have to have them cut down to 10 so they fit in the car. Here I've just drilled a couple pieces out. You can see I need to clean those up pretty good. And over here in the drill press is the nice jig that's used to give me the same spacing for each cleat. Drilling with a number 7 drill bit into here so that when they're tapped with the tap, they'll hold 1/4 inch screws. After those are made, and we have quite a few of them right over here. This is the entire project's stock of little cleat bars. So these are all ready to be welded on. These still need to be drilled. Once they're drilled, and they're in this state right here, then I will take those pieces and weld them across here, and then I'll take the drill again and drill down through those 3 holes, which are at a nice regular spacing all the way through to where the hinge pin would be, and then I'll tap all the way through. And then there are these plastic pieces here that I've cut out of large squares of UHMW. I have another guide that I make my holes with to create a piece which is countersunk. So all these pieces, since the holes are drilled at a very regular spacing, can fit on any of the particular track lengths, and I'll probably have some spares for those are needed. And then over here is the screw painting assembly line. This Valspar tractor and implement paint seems to do really good holding up on these screws and not scraping off when I screw them on into the plastic cleat pieces that you could see here if the camera would focus. And so that's all the remaining steps to do for this track, other than lubing the pins and putting on the final wires to hold the pins into place, which there are some examples of, like right here. There's a wire holding a pin into place.